Hi Bookish Babes, welcome back to my channel. My name's Marissa. For today's video, I wanted to go over all of the books that I read in both of my book clubs in 2024. There is going to be a wide variety of books on these lists. One book club is just a little bit different than the other, but we are going to start with the GC book club, which is also known as Gratiot County Book Club. This has a wide variety of different age ranges, and everybody has different book tastes when it comes to genres. So we started off with 7 people for January of 2024, and our group has now grown to 16 people. This is all people from around the area, and this is one we meet in person with because I wanted to start meeting in person as well as over the phone with some other people because I just wanted to get together with a different group of people that I know enjoyed reading instead of just my besties. So I started an in person book club with them. Start off in January, I didn't really know exactly where I wanted to go with how to pick books for the year or for the month. We read one book a month and meet one day. It's normally the last Sunday of the month that we meet because everybody has Sundays off. And that is just how it's worked for us because everybody has busy lives. And I just think one book a month isn't too daunting. And it gives everybody, whether they are a slow reader or a fast reader, time to be able to read the book we picked. In January, we decided to just do a free pick. Everybody picked a book that they've been wanting to read. A lot of people picked thrillers, so we do have a lot of thriller readers in our group. But I used a Google Forms to be able to choose this pick. We ended up picking The Housemaid by Frida McFadden, which was very nice because some people have Kindle Unlimited and some don't, and this helped out with people who didn't have the book but didn't want to buy it. So with this book, majority of us enjoyed it a lot. I will say Frida McFadden isn't my favorite thriller author. However, this is the only book I've read from her, and I liked it, but it's not my favorite thriller that I've read. Now, in February, we decided to start doing themes to pick our books. We also decided that using a Google spin wheel was going to be the best option for everybody having a way to have their pick be chosen, but also very randomly, so there wasn't any chance of favoritism towards either book. But for February, we started off with suggesting romance for the theme because obviously Valentine's Day is in February. And with this, we ended up with Love in Other Words. I did enjoy this book from Christine and Lauren. I really got tripped up with the ending though, and that's where I didn't like this as much. But I did love the friends to lovers aspect of this novel. March's pick was geared towards St. Patrick's Day, so we picked a book with a green cover. And with this, my pick actually got chosen for this one, and that is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. This is another thriller. It's very similar to the JonBenet Ramsey case, but everybody did enjoy this, minus the ending. And if you know, you know. The ending is freaking crazy. On to April, we all decided to do a memoir to take into consideration more mental health. So we had a few different choices in this, and ultimately Matthew Perry's ended up getting chosen. That is Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. I do highly suggest this memoir. I've only read a couple memoirs now, but this one, the only thing that's hard for me to get through is that it's very chaotic. But it makes sense to the plot of his story because he really just wrote down everything he was thinking about when he was thinking about it. And with his mind being like it was, especially after like all the drugs that he did pursue, it made a lot of sense with how the story was. Now, in May, we decided to switch it up a little bit and pick a book with a male author. This one was The Thursday Murder Club, and nobody enjoyed this book, so I'm glad I'm not the only one. I gave it a 2-star. I think a majority of people gave it 2-star, and it was just the slowest book any of us had read. It didn't go very well. I don't think I'm ever going to read any more of that series. But if you enjoy cozy mysteries that take place kind of like in a nursing home, I would suggest it. In June, we decided to do women's fiction. And for this pick, we ended up with The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I am so glad we decided to read this because a lot of people on BookTube have read it and have really enjoyed it. And this book was really good, especially since she was the bodyguard and he was the one who needed to be protected. But it was only a subplot of romance, and the fiction really held its own on this one. Now, with July being part of summer, somebody in our group decided to suggest that we picked a book that either had summer in the title, had something very summery on the cover, or took place in the summer. So we ended up with The Summer House by Lauren K. Denton. This was my mom's pick, and this was another women's fiction. I think this book ended up being a little on the lackluster side because there wasn't a lot going on. It was just a solid, streamlined story, but there wasn't any turmoil or anything that happened to make it really something to remember. For August, I was not able to make the meeting because I was helping my mom and grandma take my great grandma back to Canada for the next few months. And with that, we decided on Archer's Voice because we went with a disability representation for the theme of this book. With Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, I can't give you much information on it, even though I do own the book because I did not end up reading it for the month. But it is on my to be read pile for this year, to prioritize this year because I wasn't able to read it last year for book club. In September, my birthday month, we ended up doing another free pick. And for this one, we read A Thousand Splendid Suns. This is from the author of The Kite Runner. I've never read The Kite Runner, but after reading this novel, I really would like to read that book. It really had a lot to do with a mother and daughter found family aspect. And if you don't know a lot about the wars in Afghanistan, I highly, highly encourage you to read a book from this author. On to October, which our theme for October is not very original. We went with picking a thriller, mystery, or horror novel. But this is the first time we decided to each write down our suggestion on a piece of paper and put it in a cup and pick randomly. As they dwindled down, the last pick in the cup was the one we read for the month of October. And that would be Misery by Stephen King. I was not a fan of this book. I think there was too much inner monologue and not enough what was going on the outside. And if anybody mentions that it's horror, it's more just gory at times. I wouldn't consider it something that would be hard to read if you don't like horror, just if you don't like gore in books. In November, we decided to pick a book about sports or a sports romance. This ended up being The Girl from Jakarta by Hester Keegan, and this is an independent author. This was about a girl who made it into the leagues with men on a soccer team. There was a little hint of romance, but I just feel like it wasn't a very fleshed out book, and it could have been written a lot better in different parts of it. And December being the last month of the year, we did another cup drawing, and this one was just a holiday read for Christmas. This ended up being Christmas at Sugar Plum Manor. With this book, I didn't realize it's actually a Christian romance author. It seemed to be a lot more historical romance than I thought it was actually going to be, but it was a beautiful little novella story, and I do highly suggest it. It was very much Hallmark vibes, and I really enjoyed that. Majority of our group wanted to read more of her novels. Now on to my Bookish Babes book club. And for this one, it's just 4 of us. We FaceTime every Sunday. We pick a certain amount of pages to read in the book we're reading, and we just go over what we read for the week. First book that we read for the year, it ended up being House of Sky and Breath. This is the second time I've read this, but Kylie did not end up reading this yet, so we ended up rereading it with her for the next release, being House of Flame and Shadow. This one was coming out, we wanted to do a reread, and so that's why we did that. So we ended up reading House of Sky and Breath first, and then we went on to House of Flame and Shadow, finished that up. This is my book club that primarily reads fantasy, so we did read a few of those in this year. Next, we all decided to pick a book we wanted to read, and then we all read that book at the same time. For instance, Kylie picked Final Girls by Riley Sager. We all read that book together and then discussed it. Abby picked The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic. I didn't continue reading that one. I DNF'd, but the other girls did read it and enjoyed it. I picked Scarred by Emily McIntyre. I have read that book already, so it was my second time reading that as well, but all the other girls read with me. And then Emily picked Flawless. And after we read Flawless from Elsie Silver, we decided to continue on to that series because we loved it so much. So after Flawless, we read Heartless, Powerless, Reckless, and Hopeless. I loved all these, and I will reread them again because they were so good. We went on to a fantasy after reading quite a few romances there, and read Fourth Wing. This has been on a few of our shelves for a while, and we really wanted to read it because Onyx Storm was coming out this year, and we wanted to see what the hype was about. We then decided to continue on to Eclipse, which is part of the Twilight series, because we did read Twilight and New Moon the year prior in 2023 in the fall. We wanted to read the next two this last fall. So we read Eclipse, and we also got Breaking Dawn done this year. We did not read Midnight Sun and the short story of Bree Tanner, but I do want to read those eventually. However, this year I will be getting to Harry Potter instead of those, so we'll see how that goes. And another thing we decided to do between the 4 of us was have one person have a pick for another person in our group. So Abby picked my book that needed to be read by the end of the year that she suggested to me, and that was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. I did not realize how much of a romance that was before it wasn't. And I think it was a solid thriller if you're interested in thrillers plus romance. And then the last book we decided to read, which we're not finished with, but we started in 2024, is Iron Flame. We should be done with that by the end of January, and I am nervous to finish it. If there are any of those books that you want more explanation on, or more books that you would suggest that go off of the books I read for last year in my book clubs, please let me know. And if there's any theme ideas that you can think of that you want to put down in the comments, I would love to see what you have thoughts of. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye!